look at these three pictures I have on screen, and I want you to think about which one's your favorite. It may be the fun and colorful one, or the warm and cozy one, or the one that's clean with lots of natural light. No matter which one you chose, our values have gone into these spaces to shape them into what they are today. So whether the value of the time is efficiency or making sure that the home is as presentable as possible, each of these spaces have been impacted by our values. So as I walk through the American kitchen, college dorm, and even our own school's campus, we can see how these values have impacted these spaces. So in the 1900s, the value of the time was efficiency. And we could see this within the spaces, or within the materials like tile flooring, see-through cabinets, and sinks to wash dishes in. People were trying to make the kitchen as easy to use as possible because cooking was a messy process at the time. We could see that this within society as well. For example, the Ford Model T assembly line managed to get the manufacturing of a car down to just 24 seconds. The value of efficiency was incredibly important after World War I, especially to soldiers, and we could see this both within spaces and within society. In the 1960s, the value of the time was innovation. People had spent so much time rationing during the war that they were ready to spend their money. The country basically went on a mass shopping spree. Factories switched from wartime to peacetime production, meaning that they were making more goods than they were during the war. Inventions were coming out by the day, and these included microwaves, ballpoint pens, and even freeze-dried coffee. But not all inventions were incredibly helpful and became staples in the American kitchen. So while installing a toaster inside of your countertop may sound like a good idea, it really just made the kitchen hard to clean. So the value of innovation allowed for creativity to combine with, the need to improve the American and international economy, and this allowed for the value of innovation allowed for people to combine creativity with the need to improve the economy, which was incredibly important during this time. So now it's the 70s, an era marked by cultural events such as the Woodstock Festival, fashion trends like bell-bottom jeans, and tons of colors and patterns everywhere. Musicians like John Lennon endorsed various social movements, and when you picture a kitchen from this time period, picture the color and pattern of the era combining to make this kitchen. So people often had wooden cabinets and a central table for their family to eat at, and this allowed for people to all come together. The value of the time was collective individualism, and this meant that everyone came together and the fact that they were all doing their own thing. So likewise, people were now invited inside of the kitchen instead of being secluded to other more formal areas of the house. TV dinners also began during this time, and these consisted of meals like Salisbury steak, mashed potatoes, and peas, fresh from the freezer. Ads typically had headlines like how to catch the early show with an easy dinner, and these were often targeted at women, encouraging them to buy their products so that they could spend more time with their families. But while the era of the hippies seemed like it would last forever, as we move into the 90s and 2000s, a new era of traditionality began. So the 2000s brought on the popularization of home TV shows on channels like Fixer Upper, or on channels like HGTV. One of these shows was Fixer Upper, and if anyone has ever seen an episode of Fixer Upper, they know they're constantly knocking out walls. It seems like it's always demo day. The open floor plan was incredibly popular during this time period, and this allowed for people to cook in the same room that they were entertaining their guests. But as we move into today, we can see that people want more separation within their homes or a more closed floor plan. People are putting up walls and doors to separate themselves from the noises of the house, and this is functional because it allows for people working from home to have a more designated space. But could people still want the separation between work and home, even if they are working from home? So we can see our values in each of these kitchens, but we can see them in other spaces as well. Just think about the difference between the Academic Commons and Perkins. Academic Commons is a more specialized space with lab tables, whiteboards, and even the engineering lab. But we can see this in Perkins as well. Perkins has more traditional classroom spaces and tends to have more rows of desks. But we can see within teachers' classrooms that they can individualize and share their educational values. For example, Ms. Sutcliffe has a large table in the center of her classroom, which allows for her to promote discussion within her room, while Ms. Duke has rolling chairs, which allow her to shift between small groups, large groups, and even traditional rows of desks. We can see how each of these teachers share their own educational values within their spaces. But what are our generation's values? When you think about what drives us, what is it? As a young generation, we have the power to shape what our values are, so what should they be? Many of us will be going to college between either a few months or a few years. Regardless, you're going to live in a dorm or an apartment where you'll be able to decorate your own space, probably for the first time. But we're also the first generation to grow up next to social media. So we can see that people can save their pins to Pinterest boards or follow their favorite influencers, and by doing this, they share their style. So I'm sure you can tell my style by my Pinterest board. One One influencer is Lauren Lovelace, and she shares her travel adventures, fashion taste, and of course, the process as she decorates her new home. She conveniently links everything she buys so that her audience can make the same purchase that she did, and by doing this, she brings her own style into other people's homes. And this is done all across social media. So back to the dorm rooms, we can see that people are individualizing their own spaces in order to give their space or make their space feel more like home. Instead of just being a place to sleep at night, they can call this place home. And so I encourage you to decorate your own space with your individual style in order to make your space feel more like home. So let's go back to the 3 kitchens I showed you at the beginning. Whether it's an American kitchen, college dorm, or just a distant dream of the future, we have the power to shape our homes. While you may not want to be an architect or interior designer in the future, you can shape your homes. I encourage you to look around, whether it's an American kitchen, college dorm, or just a distant dream of the future, you can shape your homes by your values. So I encourage you to look around and ask yourself if your spaces reflect you.